All right, welcome everyone. How's everyone doing? All right, exciting announcements this morning from Matt. A lot of cool stuff going on, so we're going to get right into it. This is a code talk. My name is Roland Barcia. I am the worldwide director for our specialist org. I lead all our specialist technologies, and I'm joined here by Carlos Santana. He's going to introduce himself, but I'm also going to ask him, while you're there, why don't you clean up a little bit.
Clean up what?
Clean up the kitchen over there.
Oh, clean the kitchen.
Yeah.
Roland, you know how I like to clean the kitchen at my house? I put salsa music with Alexa.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like, oye, ¿cómo va? Qué lindo, oye, ¿cómo va? Oh my God, I tripped over the broom with this fridge, and now there's water everywhere.
Oh no.
And let me see if I can push the buttons here to fix it. No,
not working.
No. My wife is going to kill me. She's getting back from a trip, and she's going to kill me. Like, there's water everywhere. Like,
oh no.
And now I have to tell her I was dancing salsa while brooming and kick the fridge.
Hi, Carlos.
Ay.
All right. So, what do we need? We want to build an agent because as people don't like talking to the sport cases, they take a while. I'm like, hey, you know what? Instead of calling someone, I would love to build an agent to be able to give it some prompts around when people like Carlos, who's dancing salsa. By the way, I'm Cuban and he's Puerto Rican, so his dancing breaks the refrigerator, right?
I should be dancing the reggaeton.
Oh, there you go. We're going to build an agent, and I know we have a lot of business logic, but it's kind of locked up inside my existing containerized application. And so what are we going to do? This gentleman, Carlos, who dances next to me, is also a platform engineer, a Kubernetes expert, and this is just a little preview, right? We're going to actually show it live in a minute, but basically I want to be able to ask it some questions around, hi, how can you help me? There's a little bit of a preview. You can kind of see some of the tools and existing systems that are there. That's what we're going to build. And so give it a second, and then you'll see we have things like claims, appointment services, account information, all deterministic logic I built years ago. And Carlos, who's an exciting dancer here, is also a Kubernetes platform engineer. So they've built all these things together after years within a modern microservices-based system using Kubernetes. And so we have an opportunity and a challenge around taking your existing applications, your existing legacy applications, and kind of exposing them through MCP or other mechanisms. There's different options. And you're living now with non-deterministic logic and deterministic logic, right? You have years and years of applications that were built to be reused, and now I want to make use of them in an agentic world. So how we're going to do that. Tomorrow we have an architecture session, or I do at 6 o'clock, I think at the Win, where we go more on the architecture issues between different options for creating MCP servers, exposing existing applications, different ways to do that. But here we're just going to get into a very specific way. So, exposing your existing assets is a great way to kind of make your existing agents and automate things as well. With the architecture, we're going to get into AgentCore. I'm an agent developer. I write Python. I like to write agents. I don't know Kubernetes. I don't know the existing microservices architecture. It could have been written in Java or something. I don't know. But when you use AgentCore, AgentCore has a lot of components, a lot of sessions this week. I primarily run my agents inside of AgentCore runtime. I use things like AgentCore Identity to kind of make sure I have access to things. I want to use AgentCore Gateway as well, so that I can access all the nice tools that I might have in my agentic systems. I want to use memory to keep track of different conversations. So we're going to use these components. Not listed or new announcements like evaluations and the policies that exist inside of Gateway. Won't be showing those today, but we will kind of get into some of the code. And of course, EKS.
EKS. I love EKS.
Yes. Want to talk a little bit about it?
No, go ahead.
All right. So with EKS, Kubernetes is still super important. We have one of the best Kubernetes platforms out there with the most instance types, a lot of new exciting features. Last year we had auto mode. This year we have There's some announcements.
EKS, we just launched EKS capabilities, so that's a fully managed Argo CD, Crow, and ACK, and those pods run in our AWS services. You just see the CRD, so this allows platform engineering teams to not worry about scaling or maintaining or patching these controllers. Some of them, like the CNCF, Argo CD is part of the CNCF. So we're taking care of that compute. You don't have to pay for that compute. And then you just concentrate on deploying the apps with GitOps. And that could be ACK or Crow to deploy infrastructure. It could be a VPC. It could be an S3 bucket. And that's one of the major announcements that we did this recently. Also provisioning control planes, pre-provisioned control planes to allow at scale on demand, like big clusters, a lot of our nodes. Another one is around an EKS MCP server hosted, so you can connect things like Kiro or our agents in Strands, right, to connect it to do DevOps, agentic DevOps.
Awesome. So what's the architecture we're going to build? We're going to have a simple chat UI, because all AI demos have a chat interface where you prompt against it. So, and we're going to have existing microservices APIs with EKS. We're going to expose that through the gateway and use AgentCore Identity to make sure I have secure access to these services. And then I'm going to deploy my AgentCore runtime application. I use Strands as the SDK to deploy that. We're also going to expose the agent itself, A to A, which is something you can do inside of AgentCore runtime. Today, it's just being consumed by the chat UI, but you can envision in the future this orchestration living next to other orchestrations, et cetera. So we want to be prepared for that as well. And of course, we're going to use Bedrock to do inference in our models as well. And so this is the architecture. We're going to show some of the code with that. Carlos, you have a bunch of microservices. I want to use these systems. You told me that, you know, I don't have to learn Kubernetes because you're going to just give me some nice tools through MCP with the code and expose those existing systems. So you're going to show the audience how we did that with code?
Yep, yeah, because the scenario is our management told us like that we have to make everything MCP available, our microservices. And some of these systems have like hundreds of microservices, right? So if my team is going just to spend time writing MCP servers and wrappers and another wrapper, like it will take us the full year. So why not take advantage of the MCP gateway on AgentCore? So that's what we're going to show on some of those microservices being used from the EKS server. EKS cluster.
Awesome. So today, like, I'm going to play the role of the agent developer. I just want to get access to my tools and use them. I want to write my agents. I want to write prompts. I do prompt engineering. And Carlos, you're the platform engineer,
yep.
Right? And you're going to go ahead and take the existing systems and make them available to me as tools. And we're going to do that today. So you're going to start with the infrastructure, right?
Yep.
All right.
So we'll show you the EKS cluster. In this case, we're using EKS Auto that we show. And some of the practices that a lot of customers use to deploy microservices. They use an ingress, they use a deployment, service, annotations. Very easy to deploy these microservices and then expose them through a load balancer. And then use the gateway to access that microservices, but having a contract, and that contract comes from the open API. So we'll go more deeper into that. But then the AgentCore runtime, we need to make sure that our Roland's agent is the only one talking to my services. I don't want other agents around there just talking to the MCP gateway. So there's another service, a feature from AgentCore called Identity that will handle that token exchange with the provider to be able to connect to the MCP server that actually gets created on the fly with one URL.
Awesome. One of the cool things about AgentCore Gateway is it can talk to existing MCP servers, and you can have semantic search, so you can search across hundreds and hundreds of tools and make sure that you're getting the tool you need. You can also expose existing assets like your Lambda functions, and if you describe things with Swagger, Open API spec, automatically converts them to MCP servers. It's not the only way. Sometimes you use cases you want to code existing MCP servers, but in this case, I need this agent code done, right? So as an agent developer, I just want to use my tools. I want to use Bedrock's LLMs. I want to write my agent runtime. I want to access them, and I want to use identity to make sure I can access these tools securely. And so we're going to combine these things, and we're going to show some of the code and some of the application stuff that we've written. And then we'll actually show this live, hopefully. It'll work with demo. So we're going to switch over now to the demo. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go a little bit of code. Who wants to see some code? That's what you're here. It's a code talk, right?
Let's go.
So let me show you what we have. Let me go to the console, and I have my home here. And let me check if my ECAS cluster is ready here. So as you can see here, I have an ECAS cluster, and it's configured. Let me close a few of these windows. And we're using 133. And this is something so we can show, like, if I want to upgrade, right, I will do ECAS Insights. This is the new capability that we announced. We're getting our pop-up, so this is good that it's working. And you can check it out from there. And then ECAS Auto, right? So ECAS Auto mode is enabled, as you can see here. And we'll have our compute that is here. And these nodes are coming from node pools. So we are auto mode. ECAS uses something called Carpenter. Who uses Carpenter in their ECAS clusters? Great. So Carpenter is the auto scaling that automatically provisions your nodes based on pods that are pending. And that way you don't have to, it's a much easier way of managing those. What else we have here? So this is a vanilla one. Add-ons, I have one called external DNS. These allow us to basically add a domain name to my ingress when I create an ingress or a service. External DNS is part of the CNCF. And one thing is we recently added ECAS community add-ons. So things like external DNS, cert manager, group state metrics. These are add-ons that gets deployed through ECAS add-ons API, and these are things that you don't have to do it through Helm chart, container images that you have to scan, maybe checking that the compatibility is broken between the version of Kubernetes and these add-ons. So a lot of our customers are like now switching from self-managed Helm charts, deploying these ECAS communities, to deploying them through the ECAS add-on. And you can do that with ACK, CloudFormation, Terraform, anything that handles the CLI that handles the API. So that's our cluster here. I can show the capabilities, right, that we show. Here's the capabilities that you can add things like Argo CD, ACK, and curl. So just giving you an overview of what we have. And this is like me, the platform engineer, having to manage to a fleet of clusters. So usually in a business, we have multiple ECAS clusters, pre-prod and prod. And having this in here help us a lot. Let me show one more thing. I think I was upgrade insights. So as you saw, it was 133, but there's upgrade insights that we give you of like, what are the things if you're ready to upgrade, or there's something warning or block, something that will block you from upgrading. So that's my cluster. So let's go to the console here to see what are my microservices that I'm deploying. So I can show here an example of those microservices on their infrastructure. So you're going to have access to this code. So basically, it's going to be divided in two sections. One section is agent, and another section is called infrastructure. So Roland has been working in the agent folder, right? And I've been working on the infrastructure folder. And on the infrastructure folder, we have like our manifest. So for example, I'm using, there's mainly two ways, or most popular two ways of deploying Kubernetes resources is Customize and Helm. In this case, I'm using Customize. So I have here, like Roland pointed out in the architecture, right, appointments, customer, and technician. So it has their typical deployment with the container image that has the REST API to getting the appointments, creating appointments. It has a service, and then it has an ingress. And this is what I wanted to show, that this is how you want to expose the load balancer. So when you create this, it will actually create a load balancer, and this ingress points to the service, right? The service that I just showed here on this service. And then it will add an annotation for the host name. So let's look at how that looks like in kubectl. Who calls kubectl kubectl? Okay, I always call it kubectl. Who calls it kubectl? And who just used Q? Okay. So if I do get pods, let's see the nodes, right? How many nodes I have here? Let me check on time. How are we doing time? Oh, we have plenty of time. So these are the nodes. These nodes are provisioned by the node group. So if I do get, is that a good font?
Can everyone
Size,
see?
or make it bigger? Okay, I can make it a little bit bigger. Is that okay? Okay. So, and K, for those of you, I think some of you raise your hand, K is just, it's an alias to kubectl. It's just so many years of using it that my brain is just use K. So we have node pools, and these are the Carpenter pools. So, and the thing is, Carpenter is not running as a pod in here because it's auto mode. So Carpenter is managed by the EKS service. So you don't have to install it, no Helm charts. It just runs in auto mode. And then these instances are managed, meaning that we will handle the rotation of those AMIs. So we're going to handle the CV patching. So every no more than 21 days can run. Default is 14 days. But we're going to take care of rotating those. And those are running BottleRocket, which is our containerized operating system that we recommend for running EKS workloads because it has a low footprint of files and processes that makes it more secure. So these are the node pools. And when you have node pools and you have pods in pending, it will create node claims. So you do node claims, and then these are like the instances. This is like Carpenter going directly to the AWS Fleet API and getting the node as fast as possible. And then the node gets created, and then the pod gets scheduled, right? The Kubernetes scheduler puts it here. So let's take a look of what we have in deployments. Well, let's show all the pods. So you can see, like, actually there's no, if I do get pods A, there's no core DNS, as you can see here. Who have a standard Kubernetes cluster not using EKS Auto? So usually you see things like a CNI, daemon set, you see things like core DNS, and these are things that are now in the node. So these are pods that you don't have to worry about. So in here, we see the external DNS that I show, and then metric server, right? So if you have an HPA, like we want to scale this based on metrics, the number of pods, right? You would use an HPA, say horizontal autoscaler, and you configure this HPA saying based on this CPU or memory or a custom metric, I want to have this number of pods, and it will scale up, scale out or scale in the number of pods. So that's why metric server is there. Guestbook is, I was testing the EKS capabilities to deploy from Argo CD that I have in a hub cluster in a different region, deploying to this cluster, so it's there, I was testing it. But the thing that what I wanted to show was these 3 microservices that are in the deployment thing. So if I do get deployments -n, development, we have 3 deployments. So this is typically what our business do, right? So when the management team came to us saying, hey, can you create MCP servers? We were saying, well, do we like wrap the same code again and create a Docker file and create an MCP servers, and then I have 6 pods, right? And then we discovered through our accounting, for example, our time that AgentCore has this capability of MCP Gateway, so we don't have to code the MCP servers. We can just take these APIs, have their documentation, their open API schema, or Swagger. Back in the days, we used to call it Swagger. Now we have open API spec, v3. And with that information, we can tell the MCP Gateway how to access and what are the services available so they can reconvert it into MCP tools. So if I want to do this, in this example, like I showed you, right, I have the ingress here. I can do get ingress. And then for the ingress, usually prints the host name and the external DNS name that I configure in Route 53. So usually this is the easiest way to configure host names for when you create an ingress. You put an annotation that you want to put the domain name for this application. So in this case, I have appointments, development, home insurance, demo, cloudnativestart.com. That's just a domain name that I have available for demos. Then we have customer, and then we have technician. So let's pick up one of the microservices and let's take a look at what is behind it. So if I open here and say docs, who can tell me what is this? Who recognize this UI? Who have used it? Who have used it? Okay. So for people recording, there's a lot of people raising their hand, by the way. So this is a kind of a Swagger, we just call it Swagger UI. I guess we call it now OpenSpec UI. But these are like my microservices, and this becomes appointments. So in the home insurance company, right, we have appointments and claims and customers. So customer create a claim based on their policy, and then if they have like a problem that we have with the fridge is still like running water in here in stage, oh my goodness, we need someone to come in and fix it. So we can just test it here to see if it works. I can just list what are the appointments that I have, click here, and then execute it, right? And then I get all my appointments. So this is a typical way that our current system, right, before Agentic, our customer service and everyone in the business used to access these APIs through another API, another UI, standard forms, things that are not Agentic. This is the standard way that we have established, and we have gone through change management every time we need to do an update, and that's our process. And most companies, customers have a process of that, like a change management of anything that you deploy. So we have this, and if we want to see the JSON, we can click here, and we'll get our JSON, but we can do pretty. So this is a way of describing the REST API, as you saw, all those endpoints, the get, I'm doing appointments, so like get an appointment, create an appointment, delete an appointment, list appointments. So this is like the standard way of creating this documentation. And a lot of frameworks, right, Spring Boot, Express.js, we're using Fast API, have a way to generate this Swagger or OpenSpec API. But you can also use things like Kiro. You can ask Kiro, which are our Agentic IDE or CLI, to inspect the source code and say, generate me the Open Swagger for this file, right? Or get me started and start doing that. So, but that's a requirement that we have. And I'm going to show in a minute that there's something that for MCP Gateway that is not in here. So if I search, let me see if it's here. I search for server. In the spec, there's a field called server which has a URL. So the MCP, we're going to give this JSON file to the MCP gateway to access this API, but it needs the address. So one way, the way to express the location of this REST API, right? If it's going to be development versus production, maybe I have two domain names or a path-based routing. It would know how to call it. So we're going to show the code how we inject that. How are we doing?
We're good. Okay.
So good so far, right? So if you have microservices, they're up and running. You need a Swagger file, a JSON file, and we need to inject the URL. So I'm going to do it with code, and then let's see how we can expose this on the MCP gateway. So let's go to Kiro. I'm using the Kiro IDE. Actually, almost all this code was working me, Kiro, back and forth, creating this code. So he's aware of the things that are happening here. So let me go and show you. And this code, when you get it, it will have a lot of test files because I use Kiro, and as a spec-driven development, Kiro created all these test files to make sure that the requirement that I put into the beginning was met as we developed this demo code. But in this case, I'm going to go to the MCP gateway, Python folder, source, and I have setup.py. And then I have a pipe project, so we're using Python to create the gateway and this infrastructure, but you can use whatever other infrastructure as code that you have, like things like ACK in this case that we were talking about, CloudFormation, Terraform, the CLI, whatever you have. In this case, I'm just going to show Boto3, right, the Python SDK. So let me go here and open I have the terminal so big that I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And pipe project is basically like the entry point to this thing. So I have a entry point called MCP Gateway Setup that is going to use the source setup.python code and the main function. So if I run that, just need to grab it, go to this directory here. I mean, that directory, right? So if I see the project in there. If I do ls source, right? Here's all the things that I was testing, like the different pieces to create the MCP gateway. But setup.py is setting up the MCP gateway. So if we look at the code, I think I had it up. In here, let me find my main function. So this little code, and I have some utility helper functions just to speed up things because we don't have enough time to cover everything. But let me find the main function, right? So this is the main function. So if I run this script, it would ask you, you can pass 2 parameters. The REST API domain name, so you can use your own when you run this when you get back home, or tonight you can run it and you pass a domain name. In this case, it was cloudnativestart.com, remember? And then I will pass the environment if I'm going to deploy the development namespace or the production namespace, but also a lot of customers have these environments in separate EKS cluster. They have a pre-prod cluster and a production cluster. So for demo purposes, I'm using namespaces. So you pass those 2 things, and then we're going to start using the Boto3 library to do that. And then the first thing that we do is create an MCP gateway. And to create an MCP gateway, we need a IAM role for the MCP gateway service, right? The instance of the MCP gateway is going to be need identity, like an AIM role, and the documentation shows that. So I have a function that just create an AIM role with the right AIM policy, and I get that AIM role. The next thing that I do is get a cognito. So this is how I'm going to protect the MCP gateway for Roland when he creates the agent and he's going to access the MCP gateway. It's going to be an inbound from the AgentCore, from the agent to the MCP gateway. So in this case, I'm using cognito to protect it. So this function, I think I have it here, to the definition. So this function basically creates, it checks if I already have it created, like for demo purposes. If it's not, it will create it. Like, and then it will need things like, what is the cognito pool, resource server ID, resource server name. So this is basically like to handle the scope. So if you want to read versus write, the scopes are down here that I want to define. And then basically I create that, and I get back the information that I need to return, like what is the user pool ID, the client, the client secret, the cognito discovery URL, the token URL where you're going to get a token from that cognito service, and then the resource server ID where the scopes need to match when you ask for a token. So let's go back to the main. Down here, where's the main? Forget the line number. So create the MCP. So cognito is created. Then I'm going to create the gateway. So there's an API, and the things that you need to pass to this gateway is 3 things. And take into account that you create a gateway first, and then you do your targets. So you can create a gateway, and then with the protection that you want, and then you start adding targets. And targets could be different microservices, right? 1 Swagger file at a time. So you have 5. In this case, have 3 Swagger files or 3 microservices endpoints. I'm going to be adding 3 targets into it. So it's the information around the cognito, and then what is the role that gateway instance is going to use. So it's going to run that. The next thing is the identity provider name. So this is passing in to this identity provider service in AgentCore. As you saw in the slides, there's an AgentCore identity. So identity, think about it like a helper for the agent to be able to get that token. Instead of the token having the client secrets, like in code or an environment variable and doing that token exchange from machine to machine token, identity can do that for me. And it has a nice SDK that Roland is going to show on how the decorator would inject that token. But I need to create the identity, right, to protect the MCP. Not protect, the Cognito is protecting. The identity is a service that will handle getting the token for the agent, but it needs to know, like, where do I get it from? Well, you're going to get it from the Cognito and requesting it with the proper scopes. So this is why I'm passing, like, the user URL, the authorization endpoint, the token endpoint. So the identity service is the one that is going to call Cognito your service to get the token back. And then that piece of information, there's some piece of information that I need to pass to Roland or Roland's team, right? So I need to pass to it the gateway URL. So once you create the gateway, even without target, so that URL, you can keep using it. That Roland would need that when he creates this agent. He needs that MCP URL to use the MCP SDK to connect to it, and he's going to show that. And then I need to give it the identity provider name. So in AgentCore, you will see as you develop multiple agents and MCP gateways, you may have different identity providers. So you need to select what is the instance of that provider that we just created in this script. And then the resource server ID is from the Cognito, when you ask for a scope, for example, for that gateway, you get a token that has the right claims. Like it's a JOT token that has the right claims. So let's run that to see if we can get our MCP gateway created. So if I do uv run, and I forgot what was the command, the script. So I have different scripts in here. So you can see I have like test the gateway, test the connection. I'm going to show that in a minute, creating an S3 bucket to save those JSON files. But let's create the gateway. So we're going to run it once, and then I'm going to run it again with the thing. So in this case, it's going to create the Cognito, it's going to create the identity service, and it's going to create the MCP gateway and get that information stored in SSM parameter for Roland to use. So in this case, and we have emojis because Kiro likes to put emojis on status, which I think is cool. And it actually describes all this text output. I think I like. If I didn't have the time, I would not put it, but Kiro just put it for me, so it's very useful. And then this is the gateway that Ron is going to use, so I'm going to give it to it. So let's go to the console and see a little bit of this. So this is the AgentCore landing zone, or first page that you see. And on the left, I think this is good. We click gateways, and we have our reInvent app gateway that we just created. And it has the MCP URL that I'm going to pass to Roland, and it has the identity, right? The inbound identity using Cognito and discover URL on how it's going to be created. So far, so good. So let's create the targets to my 3 microservices: appointments, technicians, and what's the other one? Claims? Yeah, claims. So the next piece on this setup is part B, creating the MCP gateway targets. So you can create the gateway once and then get the targets. So in this case, let me comment out this code here, and then I'll run it again. And then this is the information that it's going to do. As this is running, I'm going to show the code. I'm going to do appointments with a description, customer, and technician. The claims are inside the customer. So it's three services: appointments, customer, and technician. And the claim information is stored inside a customer with the policy. It will go over each of the 3 targets. It will build the URL. Remember of the URL that was missing? So I'm going to fetch the JSON file, insert this URL in this function, so it's upload, and then upload it to an S3 bucket. So the MCP gateway, the way it's worked is you have to put this JSON file in the S3 bucket and then give the gateway the S3 location of this file to create the target. And then this is the API URL that you're going to hit, the path, and the bucket name. and then you create the target with the credential provider ARN. So what this does is if your REST API is protected, which it should be protected most likely, it could be a parameter or it could be an authorization, right? A header, like an authorization header. The URL to that bucket, what I want to call the target, a nice description for it, and then the gateway ID to which gateway should I attach this target as I create the target. So this code actually ran 3 times. As you can see here, it ran 3 times. It got the JSON code. JSON opened spec API, inserted the server, put it in S3 bucket, and created the gateway. So, and actually I can show the S3 bucket should be here. Let me see if it's here, AgentCore Gateway. Yeah, so these are the 3 JSON files that this code did. It just grabbed that, it put the appointment.json, customer.json, technician.json, and that's what I passed when I created the target, this location of these JSON files in here. So this is where the JSON is located, and then the target can be created. We'll grab it, and then it will be exposed. So if we go to the agent gateway, here at the bottom, I have my technician, my customer, and my appointment. So there's not much information, but it says that it's there in status. So it takes like a minute to be created. The JSON, the S3 location of that JSON file, and an ID. So there's not much about it. Also the outbound auth details. So this will click and go into like how to authenticate to the REST API. Let me see. Go back to the code. How are we doing with time?
We're good.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to show, so there's the S3 bucket, the gateway, and then the information I'm passing to Roland, which is the SSM parameters, or SSM, I think it's here. Let me open a new screen. Here, and then I think it's parameter store. And I use parameter store because it's configuration. It's not like a secret. If I had a secret, I would store it in Secret Manager. I'll show you in a minute. Secret Manager is used, so you have to configure AIM policies because the identity service is using a client token, a client secret. And that secret is stored in Secret Manager. So anytime that the identity service needs to do that token exchange, it will go to Secret Manager, grab the value that is there, get it, and then do the token exchange with Cognito. The same thing happens when the MCP gateway is going to connect to your REST API. If you have like an API key, for example, or like an authorization header, and that needs to be configured to access this REST API, it also is stored secure in Secret Manager. So the service has an integration, AgentCore has an integration with Secret Manager to do that for you. So it's a convenience way of doing that, and also providing the SDKs to trigger it from the code. So when I run the code, actually this is what happened behind the scenes when I created the target and when I created the identity. So yeah, this is the information that I'm giving Roland. So for example, the most important one is the MCP URL. So as you can see, the value here matches is a gateway.bedrock agent US West 2. So we are in West 2, AmazonAWS.com/MCP. So Roland is going to use the MCP client streamable HTTP endpoint to connect to it with the token when identity gets the token back. So it's one way. You can have multiple ways of interchanging this information, right? If it's something that is already known, but we did it through code because that will make it more secure to handle the parameter passing and so on. So I show the S3 bucket. We're storing the JSON. The Secret Manager. So I showed you. Secret Manager will have a few pieces because we are also doing the inbound identity service. Like when somebody wants, the UI is going to talk to the UI is going to talk to the agent core. It's not like anything can talk to your agent core. We want to protect that connection to the agent. So you can see here, this is the information saved as a API key. Is the API key that is access the service, and then the reinvent incognito here. So I can show this, right? This is the client secrets. I'm going to delete this, by the way, so it doesn't matter. And then this is the client secret. So if you have automation to rotate this client secret incognito, right? Maybe you generate a new one, right? It got leaked. Then you can have some automation that actually rotates, goes into incognito, rotates the client secret for a new one, comes back to secret manager, and you can just put it here. And then the next time the identity service needs to grab this to exchange it for a incognito token to access the MCP gateway on behalf of the agent, it will have it there. So the automation is there, and that's why we provide all these services, and all of them have APIs, and we offer SDKs, so you can use like code build, code pipeline, the CLI, CloudFormation, Terraform, or SDK to actually do this rotation. Like some companies have some policies, right? Customers have some policies in the organization that they want to rotate maybe like every 90 days or every 6 months, rotate that. So that's the integration with Secret Manager. So you will see that this information if you get all the details about the identity service. So actually I can show that here that it got created. So you can see here, here's the reinvent Cognito gateway provider. So that is the provider that my code created, and this is the information that is stored behind the scenes on how to get access to the client secret, which is here. I could go here and click on it, and it will go there. So that's the integration and the security aspect of using agent identity. And I think that's it, Roland. I have like the SSM parameters for you.
Okay, let's go.
Let me remove my things, so you don't need this, you don't need this. You're going to create an agent, and then show us the UI.
We're going to show the agent. Yep. All right, Carlos, thank you. So over here, I'm inside the agent project. I'm more of an AWS native developer, so I use AgentCore, Runtime, which is serverless. We're using AgentCore Gateway, AgentCore Identity. But the UI actually built it with ECS and Fargate because, he's a Kubernetes guy. I'm not. I'm just an agent developer. And so, but we have a lot of our core, highly scalable business logic on the EKS cluster. So we're going to, over here in the code, we're inside my project now. For convenience, we put it all in Carlos's laptop, but we did this separately. We have home insurance is my agent. So the first thing we did is Carlos showed talking about loading the SSM parameters. He already showed them. So this is basically the code to actually go and retrieve the SSM parameters to get the information I need around, which is basically the gateway provider name, the gateway resource server, and the MCP URL that he showed. So this is just basic code that we use in AWS to kind of go and get my parameters from the SSM stored using the APIs in AWS. And so we do that. So the next thing we want to do is we want to show the code around getting the MCP client and getting the authorization token. Now, we don't want to store credentials, make this stateful, so we're going to use a decorator in Python so that every time we go and we create the gateway client or we access the gateway client, we want to be able to get a refresh token. So this is a good pattern to do using a decorator pattern. So it's going to call the SDK APIs to get the access token. So each time it calls this function, you're going to get a refresh token, which is a security best practice. And so here, you see we're going to get the URL, and then we're going to use the standard MCP client SDK to actually create an MCP client using a Python Lambda function, and we're creating that using streamable HTTP client because it's a remote MCP server that's hosted by the gateway. Get the authorization header, which is refreshed with the decorator each time, some timeout parameters, et cetera. So that's the next step that I do in my code as an agent developer. We have, of course, access to the model. I believe we're using Haiku 4.5 from Anthropic. And then this is just some cleanup code around stopping the gateway, et cetera. So here we have part C, right? We're going to create the AI agent, and we're going to make it an A2A server. So we're going to get kind of the headers that we need, because we want our agent to be able to access AWS resources like the gateway and identity. And we're going to get your AgentCore SDK token as well. We're going to get our session ID as well. So we're going to have a session, and we're going to use a little helper called Agent Context to kind of store the session ID as well, if it's not found. So, and we're going to check if we've already gotten the agent. Since we're using AgentCore Runtime, if a request comes in and the runtime is still up and running, it'll just get the agent again. We won't have to refresh. It goes away, it'll lazily create the agent again. So over here, we use the agent context get agent. If it's not there, we actually go ahead and create it. We start the client gateway. We set the client gateway. We get the list of tools. And here we have our Strands agent. So we use the Strands SDK. We give it the list of gateway tools that we get from the gateway. Give it our model. We give it some of our system prompts and a description. And we go ahead and create the Strands agent. And then we wrap the Strands agent as an A2A server. That way, in the future, if another agent wants to invoke this agent, that's set up, and we run that inside of AgentCore Runtime. So let me show you some of, this is the first time I do this on Carlos's machine. And so we're going to go and look at AgentCore Runtime. So we've deployed this. The code to deploy that is there as well, where we have this home insurance agent, which was deployed, version 41. So we deployed this a few times. So we have an existing running one already. You can see we had a 2-week gap. I was traveling that week for a customer visit. So we have this running in our runtime. It's a serverless runtime. It does all the things around observability as well, pre-built in. So we're really excited about that. We also have the UI running in ECS Fargate, but I'm going to run it locally for the demo here. So I'm going to go back, move this back up here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to, did I lose it? There we go. We'll just hopefully, oh, sorry. I got all of Carlos's history there. All right. Yep, UV run, yep, UV run UI. So let's go and run the UI application. Okay. We're good?
Yeah, localhost 8,000. I think I have it open.
Yeah.
Tab, Gradio, I think the Gradio one.
Yep. Cool.
Refresh it to see if it's connected. Demo goats are inside. Yeah, Wi-Fi demo goats.
All
Woo!
right, cool.
Clap, everybody clap.
All right, there we go. So I'm going to say, let's see, what, get your cap locks up. I don't want what.
Yeah, like we did at the beginning.
Tools do you have? Let's see.
So this is the video that you saw at the beginning, like asking, like, do you have access to the tools? And they should come back with something about appointments, customer, right? The 3 microservices.
Let's see. Yep. So there you go. Or is it the 3 tools, the 3 different microservices, appointment scheduling, technician services, and so I'm going to say Carlos was dancing salsa.
You have to be specific.
And crashed into the fridge.
It's water everywhere. There's still water going on the stage.
Everywhere. And buttons don't work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So this is what happens when Carlos does salsa dancing. Let's see what we can get.
And you are user Emily, I think. I think she has a valid policy. We'll see.
Yes. So notice we logged in as it knew it was. So I was like, perfectly. I successfully created your claim with
Already. Okay.
019. Claim has been submitted, marked as high urgency. Given water is everywhere, this is definitely a high priority issue. Would you like me to schedule an emergency service appointment?
Yes.
Repair? Yes.
And someone quick.
Please schedule that quickly before Carlos's wife finds out. Let's see what we can get here.
So it's going from the UI to the agent to the MCP gateway to the ECAS cluster and back.
All right.
And the LLM in the middle, right? The LLM, this information.
Yeah, my agent is sending that to the LLM.
And these agents have reasoning, right? So it can go multiple times to the LLM to reason about it with multiple calls, not just one MCP call.
Still processing. Here we go. All right.
So an appointment?
Yeah, so it says perfect. I've got you set up, appointment, time, etc.
When?
David Chang. So in 2 hours, December 2nd at 9 p.m. Pretty late technician visit. Let me see. What can I do about Carlos?
What? Why are you asking what to do about Carlos?
Yeah, like, it's bad,
Fire him?
I don't know. Let's see.
Don't let him do salsa?
Yeah, don't let him do salsa. Let's see. Of course, I'm Emily in here. I can hear the concerns in your question. While I'm quite skilled at handling refrigerator emergencies, insurance claims, and scheduling repair appointments, I'm afraid my expertise doesn't extend to managing Carlos's salsa dancing habits. It tells me repairs. That gives me some suggestions from the LLM.
What?
A dance instructor, you need one.
Oh.
You should get a Cuban like me.
Okay.
Un cubano, una cubana. And then you can maybe clear more space. Maybe don't dance by your refrigerator. Maybe some dance lessons for you and your wife. And maybe some protective padding around your appliances. So some good recommendations for you as well.
That's smart model.
So awesome. And so I think that's kind of the demo that we have. We showed some of the code. We will be putting this in samples very shortly.
Yeah, we have a slide with the QR code that has all the things.
So switch back to
So we can
PowerPoint and go.
Let's see.
So you should be back.
Yeah, this is the demo that Ron already played. So this was our backup if Wi-Fi didn't work. Let me go to the next one.
We didn't need the video, which is I'm pretty.
So what we learn and resources. Want to wrap
Yeah.
up?
So we definitely have the ability to expose your existing systems, your deterministic logic, all that great stuff. Use MCP Gateway to expose that logic. Make sure you have security. Make sure your agents are the only ones that can secure it and act on behalf of the right users. And Agentic can unlock a bunch of modernization for you. We do have some samples and stuff we'll be doing, both on the EKS side and AgentCore examples, and we'll be posting them. And we have some resources here if you want to take a picture.
Yeah, this is where you're going to see access the resources that we mentioned and some also useful links, and the code is there. Yeah, check it out.
Yep.
It's there. And
some sessions. Tell your friends we're repeating this tomorrow if they want to see the code. But also ARC 314. I'm doing that session at 5:30 tomorrow over at the Win. That session is going to be with another colleague of mine named Merdula, and she and I will talk a lot about more the architecture considerations and things. If you can find us in the expo if you want to ask questions, since this is recorded, we'll take questions after we stop recording. And then some of the other sessions that...
The other sessions are actually mine. The 317 is here in Mandalay Bay at 4 p.m. You can meet me again. We're doing a hands-on workshop on EKS MCP. So if you're learning about MCP, how to use MCP EKS to troubleshoot your EKS cluster or analyze it or manage and do DevOps with that.
Yep, and I'm hosting an event for our technical field community and some customers at the Rock House, I think later at 5 or so.
Venetian Rock House, yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to pass by and ask questions and chat
we have
about
drinks
those
and
things,
snacks.
you'll find us there as well. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for